Hi everybody, welcome to another Taubmans live colour session. My name is Fiona, I am a Taubmans colour specialist and I'm here tonight to help you with all of your colour queries that you may have. But tonight we're actually going to focus a little bit on exterior and exterior projects, and I really want to talk tonight about the placement of colour. I think that there's a lot of renovating going on at the moment due to being in COVID and being in lockdown. So we've got a lot of renovating, we've got extensions, we've got new builds, etc. happening. And so I thought, it's an opportune time to really explore how colours can work for you, how you can achieve a beautifully and perfectly balanced colour scheme, etc. But I also want to make, I suppose, clear that while we're doing these sessions, it's an opportune time for you out there to ask any questions, whether it be regarding an exterior project, an interior project, or even if you have any queries about some of the products that we do have. Please, for the next half an hour, I will be on screen. Please pop your questions into the Facebook feed. I will certainly do my best while we are on screen to answer all of your questions. But we do stay back afterwards for half an hour or so, basically until we answer all of the other questions offline or off screen as well. So it's an opportunity for you to have a voice, to ask away, and we're here basically to help you and to guide you with all things colour and products. So I'm going to start. So as I said, having a little bit of a focus on exteriors, and I really wanted to take you on a little bit of a journey tonight regarding the placement of colour, because I really do feel that where you actually put colour into the exterior, being you've got so many different touch points that colour goes. So you've got your garage door, you've got roof, you've got guttering, fascia, windows, you've got the substrate, a front door, etc., etc. You've got a front fence, so it's kind of never ending. And I think, there are opportunities to put colour in certain places to make things look sort of wow. But not only that, I think it is really important that when we start talking about colour, and especially as we are for exteriors, that we understand that there's something, I think, I guess I'll take you through a little bit of a journey that I had with a client earlier on this week. Now, I actually had a phone call and we had a little bit of it ended up being a FaceTime, talking about an exterior that she wanted to paint. Now, ordinarily, we had discussed colours previously, and she was talking about she's had all the windows replaced, so we're using a dark colour called Monument. And then she was talking about having her garage doors in Surf Mist and then continuing that colour or something very similar, so a very beautiful, soft, light grey, if you like, on the exterior. Now, when we had a look, and I said, look, I think it's really important for you to talk me through where this house is actually situated. So are we talking coastal? Because I think if we are looking at a coastal sort of theme, your beautiful soft greys, etc. look fabulous. Or are we talking about a bush setting? Because then if you've got a lot of bush around you, etc., you can sort of, you can play a little bit more with colour. You can start to look at beautiful greens and neutral tones, etc. And they tend to sit really well within that sort of a setting. And then we sort of talked, the house that she's talking about colouring up is in a street that has a lot of old homes. So it's an older area. So it was like, okay, let's think about this. Do we want the house to really stand out, or do we want the house to just sit back and look quite elegant, with the rest of its surrounds and the rest of the houses? So I guess you could say that we ended up going for, it's Colourbond Monument, which is a very soft grey that tends to have a little bit more of a red sort of undertone. It's a beautiful colour, and then a softer tone on the dwelling itself. So I guess the point to that is to really take in what's going on in your surrounds when you are talking or when you're looking to colour up an exterior, because I really do think that the secret to having that beautiful colour scheme that people drive by and knock on the door and say, hey, what are your colours? It does lend itself to making sure that that dwelling fits and sits really well within its surrounds. So I'm going to take you now to a couple of elevations that I've drawn up. These are very simple elevations, just so that it gives me something to talk to and help you out there that are tuning in with us to actually see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to take you to my laptop, And I will just pop myself up in the corner there. Hi everybody, you can see me up there. So this is pretty much a standard look. I have drawn a very, very simple elevation, and on here, all I have done is, you know, coloured up the glass window, so to speak, and the glass in the front door. Everything else is non-coloured. So when we, as I was saying before, we're looking and we're talking about the different substrates and the different touch points on an exterior that we colour up. So we've got our roof, we've got our guttering, our fascia. Obviously, we've got our main body of the house, our substrate here. We've got a garage door, and then obviously a front door. And then we've got our sort of our window frames here. So we do have quite a few different elements that I guess you could say we want to all sort of blend together and create that beautiful harmonious colour scheme. So I'm going to slide just along to my next quick elevation here. So what I've done here is I have shown you that and this is something that when I talk to my clients and when I'm guiding them, whether they are starting off building, say, a brand new dwelling, or whether they're renovating and they're looking at, for example, maybe putting in new windows, they're wanting to paint their roof or they're having it sprayed, they're looking at doing the, they're looking at doing the guttering and the fascia. I've done that here. I've kept it all as one colour. So I've got the roof, the guttering, the fascia, the garage door, and our window frames here, all in one colour. And the colour that I have popped in there is Surf Mist. So it's a very, very soft white that has a soft grey undertone. And look, it's a fantastic colour. And then on here, on the actual body of the house, I've used a colour called Taubmans Oyster Bar, which is a grey that tends to have a little bit more of a blue undertone. Fantastic colour, especially if we're talking about colouring up along a coastal area. And this blue here is actually a colour that I did create with Coloursmith, and I've popped that in there. So for me, I think that's a really fantastic placement of colour, and by having your garage door, your roof, etc., and your window all the same colour, it lends itself, or it lets you, or gives you the ability to actually play with colour a little bit more. It looks very cohesive, it's very easy on the eye. So I'll take you through to the next dwelling that I've coloured up here. Now, this is something that does work really, really well, and obviously I've just done a stock standard sort of design here. When we start talking about Federation style homes, or beautiful grand homes that have big barge board, etc., this is where you can sort of play with colour. So, and the secret to design is when you are using colour, to always have a little bit of a repetition. So if I were to have this colour palette here, and if I didn't have the blue front door, you would literally just be looking at a band of blue around here where I have popped that onto the fascia board. But because I've brought it down to the front door as well, it looks a lot more balanced. And by having a fascia board coloured up, it certainly works in the older style homes as well. I think it's very, very appealing. But this is just something that I wanted to show you so that you can understand when you start to think about your design and your painting at home, etc. This is something to consider. And lucky last, I've got one more quick elevation here. It's all the same, but we've just coloured it differently. This works really, really well again. So yet again, we have let's just centre that a little bit. We have our roof, guttering and fascia, all the one colour, along with our window frames here. The substrate of the house, or the main body of the house, is one colour, but we've introduced a timber garage door, and then we've replicated the timber going over to a timber front door. That works really well as well. So that's just to give you an idea about how you can create at home, a really balanced, fantastic colour scheme. And the other tip that I said before was to have a look at your surrounds, take into consideration, I'm not saying go and copy what your neighbours have done by any means, but it's always good to have a look at what's happening in your street. Obviously check, that there's no covenants, etc. Some areas do have those where you have to select from a particular colour palette. And obviously if your house is heritage listed, you're going to have to deal with that as well, as in working from a particular colour palette again. So there are things to consider. So that's a quick sort of look at colour placement. And look, honestly, when I'm let's say, designing colour schemes for people and we're talking about the placement, I think this is a really crucial point to your design. So I'm going to come back to the main screen. I'm back, everybody. And I do have some questions here. So let me have a look. Okay, hi Kim, thank you very much for joining our session tonight. So Kim's question is, I have just updated my roof colour to Colourbond Monument. What would be a good match for my rendered walls? I'm in a coastal hinterland location with lots of green around me. New areas, lots of houses around me are using earthy colours like green browns. My house is exactly like the house you just had up. Oh, fantastic. Okay, Kim, so given that you're using Monument, I think Monument has to be one of my favourite colours when we start talking about Colourbond colours. I'm just going to get my little swatches up here. Should have been a little bit organised a little bit earlier. Here we go, let's have a look. Okay, so I do have, there we go. Let's see if we can see that there. There's a Colourbond Monument swatch. So if you're wanting something that has, I'm in a coastal with lots of green. So I guess there's, I could take you, I'm thinking and talking now. I could recommend something that could be, you could go along, certainly go along a grey, but more of a neutral grey, because I've talked about greys, how I like to pop them into categories, if you like. You've got a grey that tends to have a sort of a purple undertone, a blue undertone, and then you've got a brown undertone and also a green undertone. Now the green undertone is what I would refer to as a neutral type of grey, and it works extremely well when we're looking at Colourbond Monument. So I'm just going to, as you can see here, I've got my fan deck here, have a quick look and then I'll bring a colour up onto the screen. So let's have a quick, this is what happens when we're live. Okay, so, and we've got lots of greenery around it. New area, lots of houses. Earthy colours like green browns. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so, we could go. And I guess as well, Kim, how dark do you want to go? And if your roof is Monument, I'm going to ask you another question as well, please. Colour of your garage door, what colour are your window frames, things like that. And do you have any other colours there that I need to take into consideration? For example, a front door. Have you added any colour to a front door? Because these are things that will influence an exterior colour choice, so to speak. Okay, there is a beautiful colour here. I'm going to get that up on the screen. By Taubmans, called Beige Ash. So just bear with me while I'll swap screens, so you can see my screen again, and I'll pop myself back up in the corner. Okay, so now I'm onto the Taubmans website. This is fantastic. And if you go down to where it says paint to colours, you can pop onto paint colours. And then if you scroll down, you've got colour that has been placed onto the site by groups or by categories, if you like. So let me though, I'm going to search the colour. Let's just have a quick look here. Okay. Oh, beautiful. There is a colour there called Taubmans Beige Ash. I can't even get my words out. Which from here where I'm sitting and I'm looking at the monument along with that colour swatch, they look beautiful together. And given it would work very, very well with what you're saying here, having lots of green, etc. around you. It would be a beautiful colour. But if you'd like to come back to me, Kim, with a little bit more information regarding anything else, any other colour touch points that you have that exist, I can certainly expand on that for you. Thank you. Okay, I do have another question. I'll quickly answer that one. Hi Melinda, thank you very much for joining us tonight. She said, hi Fiona, it's Mel and Mia from the Leopards. Fantastic. Welcome, thank you for joining us tonight. Our roof is also being painted in Monument and we are going to bag the brick. We are wanting a white Hampton style look. What's your recommendations? Oh, okay. Look, when I think about whites and I think about Monument, I automatically default to a couple of, let's have a look here, a couple of whites. And let me just see if I can quickly have a look and see whether they're going to have enough depth for you. Where are we? So I do have, oh, that's beautiful. So is that. I'll get them up on the screen. Okay, so I guess another thing that we must, and this is a really good opportunity for me to bring this up, when we use white on the exterior of a dwelling, it has a tendency, and I like to use the term bleach out. And I'm not saying that the paint changes, you know, its composition or anything like that. It's just when the sun is beaming onto a colour, the colour sort of dilutes. So when you use a white outside, it's important to have a little bit of depth to the white so that you're not walking outside and sort of going like that and being blinded by the glare, because white does have a tendency to do that. So there is a colour here that's sitting here beautifully with Monument, and it is called Gazebo White. Now I'm just going to bring that up onto my screen. I'll do another search. And what I also recommend when we start talking about using, let me just see here, when we start talking about using whites and colours outside, the best tip that I can give everybody out there is when you go into your local hardware store, the paint that arrives on the pallets comes with what they call big cardboard pallet liners. And so if you can get yourself one of those, it's fantastic. Buy yourself a sample pot of the colour that we're talking about or the colour that you're looking to paint. Paint the large piece of cardboard with 3 coats from your sample pot, and then move it around the outside of the dwelling. Now, different areas, different types, times of day, etc., etc. And the beauty of that is you're going to see how it's going to look in full sun. So you're going to see if your colour's going to dilute out too much or if there's too much glare. And you're also going to see the colour if you're going to pop it, sort of, you know, move around to the areas where you're not getting a lot of sun to see how that looks as well. It is the best thing that you can do prior to using colours outside, and not only just with whites, but with any colour. And you know, the same applies to when you're using, when you're choosing a colour inside, because I've had this happen to a lot of people. Just because it looks fantastic in, say, Jane's house, it doesn't mean that it's going to work in your house. And the reason being is there are so many factors when we start to talk about colour, because lighting has the ability to affect your colour. So interior wise, depending on whether you have a warm or whether you have cool lighting, your colour will change. And then obviously things like your flooring, etc. You know, if you've got a red feature wall, that red feature wall can influence the white or the colour that you have. So you need to take all of those things into consideration. So the best thing that I can recommend is to grab yourself a sample pot and grab yourself a large piece of cardboard. And the smallest size that I would use when I'm trialing a colour would be 1 metre by 1 metre, because you're actually going to be able to see, you know, you're going to get a good indication of how that colour is going to work for you. So that's a really good tip. Now back to Gazebo White. Let's just have a look. Here's the colour here. This is beautiful. And looking at my screen here, Melinda, if you look at the screen here, you might think, oh, you know, it maybe looks like it's got too much colour, but trust me, once you grab yourself a sample pot and brush it out and take it outside, it doesn't have too much colour, and it is a fabulous colour to work with. So give that a try. And you know, if you're wanting a Hamptons look, if you were to introduce a beautiful blue, and look, as we did for the leopards, when we created a colour, you could certainly do that and create your own colour with Coloursmith. So I'll come back to the screen now. Okay, I'm back. All right, what else have I got here? Okay, so hi Rudy, thank you very much for joining our session tonight. Sorry, I was reading there. So you've asked, what is a good colour to paint a tiled roof to reflect heat, and does it make much difference? I guess there's a lot of things that are going to make a difference as to, you know, trying to say cool a space down, as in like cooling down, you know, I suppose the ceiling in between, or the cavity between your roof and your ceiling, etc. So obviously insulation is a big factor, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to help you with the color. If you're wanting to have something that's going to reflect as opposed to, draw the heat, go light. And, when you're looking at a good color to paint a tiled roof, generally the majority of roof colors, from my experience, generally people paint the Colourbond colors. And so if you're wanting to use a light color so that you're not getting that, you're not drawing the heat, stick with Surf Mist. Colourbond Surf Mist is a fantastic color. It's a very versatile color, and there are so many other colors within the Taubmans library that we have here that work really, really well with that. So I hope that has helped you. Now we're still going along. I want to show you something else, as I always do, and I do have a couple of other questions there which I will follow up in a moment. But as I always do, so I'm pulling myself around here, when I talk about colour and when I talk about creating your own colour, I talk about Coloursmith. And for everybody out there that has been following these sessions, you'll know that I always incorporate this into my sessions. And tonight I want to bring to life, I guess, a colour dilemma that people are facing. Like they're out there, they're renovating, they're doing a lot of things to their homes at the moment, and it's like, where do I start and how do I find a colour to blend with something that I'm going to add to my dwelling? And a prime example is, look, I am currently renovating and I am about to put a pool in. And so I am the sort of person that likes to lay all of my elements that are going to be in my design or in my space out on the table, so to speak, and I like to ensure that everything works together. So what I have here is a piece of, as you can see here, you can see that up on the screen, it's called Parisian Blue Limestone. So that's going to go around my pool edge. Now look, I know I come on here every week and I talk about colour. I'm great with helping everybody with colour, and then when it comes to me, I'm like, oh, okay, what am I going to do? Anyway, true story, my husband said, I don't know, Fee, why you're not just using Coloursmith to work out what colour you can put with this. I'm like, yes, I know. I talk about it all the time. I should. So there are many ways that we can use Coloursmith. Coloursmith is, it's actually, let me just change my view on my screen here so that we can all see what I'm going to bring up in a moment. So Coloursmith is, let's go to the iPad, pop me up in the corner. Coloursmith is an app that I have on my iPad here. Now I'm going to open it up. Now what it does is it gives me the ability to create my beautiful own bespoke colours. It gives me the ability to match, like create a colour from matching an object. I can do that 3 ways. I can use what's called the Coloursmith Reader, which looks like this. Now the reader is amazing. It contains, in the little circle in there, it is an LED light source, and you can actually place it onto something and you can scan an object and it will give you a colour. So I'm going to do that, but I also want to show you another way that you can also create a colour, and that is by a photo. So I do have my beautiful, as I said, piece of Parisian Blue Limestone. The first thing I need to do, so you can see on my screen that I have my Coloursmith app is up on my screen and it says create from match. But what I need to do is I need to get this device talking to my app. So I'm going to double click and you can see it's searching blue. If I hit create from match and hit my Coloursmith and connect, so it's talking, it's looking for this device. Okay, it is connected. So the next thing that I do is, because as you can see on there, I'm going to pop this. Now there is an awful lot of movement in this piece of limestone, and I am not expecting just one match. I'll be surprised if I get anything less than 4 or 5, because there's so much happening here. But as you can see, I'm just popping that up on there. I'm hitting match. And as I said, it has brought up many different tones here, which I would expect, because if I place that up there, you can see there are so many different tones in here. There's a lot of reflection happening. Look, it's a beautiful piece. Okay, so I've had a look at that. Now I quite like, I'm going to stick with the top one. So I've just hit Now I'm going to hit Save My Colour, Manage, as you can see there. Now in the top right corner, I can hit Edit Name. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this Limestone. Hit OK. Now it brings me back to that. Now what I want to show you tonight is, to be honest, I wasn't after a perfect match. What I'm after is, as you can see on my screen there, it says Manage My Colour, and next to that it says Combinations. Okay, and it also says Explore Colours. Let's go back. Now down the bottom I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 different tones down the bottom there that I can choose from. I can also hit Similar. It will bring up many different tones in there as well. Now the other thing I'm going to do as well, that is using the actual reader. Now I want to show you another way to use this device. Oh, let's go back again. Photo Library. So watch my screen, Photo Library. So here again, you can see, now you can actually see on there is so much movement happening. So I can go to the lighter pieces, I can go to the darker. Let's go to a lighter, hit Select. I can hit Save My Colour. Oops, let's just go again, down to the C down the bottom. There we go. And then I can hit Combinations as well. So it's given me some colours here as well that I can use that have been designed to work with that. I particularly like, there's a beautiful green here. This is beautiful because if you've heard me talk about greens, I actually have a beautiful front door, a beautiful internal door that I have created, and I have the most beautiful green. So I could hit Save My Colour here, Manage. Let's just call this Colour 1. I'm probably going to run out of time here because I've talked so much tonight. Colour number 1. Okay, so now I'm back to that. Now, down the bottom here, you can see something that is called colour values. I'm going to hit on that now. It says, about colour values, you've got RGB values indicate the 3 hues of light, red, green and blue that can be mixed together to create different colours on a monitor. So I'm going to take you to a drawing in a moment. I'm going to show you how I put the colour that I've created into my drawing. The other thing here as well, LRV or light reflectance value refers to how light or dark a paint colour will look on a scale of 0 being black and 100 to white. The higher the LRV number is, the lighter, basically is the lighter the colour. Now that's a really good thing to take into consideration. I know I'm going off track here, but I did show you before when we went through the quick elevations of front of the exterior elevations, and I did show you a colour that I had created for a front door. Now, some front door manufacturers stipulate that a colour can not be more than, say, I think some of them are a 60 or so. And the reason being they don't want dark colours or too darker colours on a front door, especially if it is exposed to, say, direct sunlight, it doesn't have a portico or something over the top. Because what can happen is the door in the heat as the, as it heats up throughout the day, and then as it cools down overnight, it can expand, contract, and it can warp the door. So that is something really very, very important. But what I want to show you now quickly is, and I'm going to take you to my screen and then we'll go back to answering questions because I think I'm almost out of time. So we're back to the laptop. Here we go. I'll put myself back in here. Okay, so there's a quick pool design that I drew up just to show you. So we've got the Parisian blue limestone going around the pool. Now I'm going to very quickly put in the RGBs from the colour that I did create, which was 218, 230 and 216, just to quickly show you. And we'll hit OK. Bang, bang, bang. We can see beautiful soft green here. I'm loving this. As I quickly pop that in. So you can get a quick visual. It looks a bit darker there, that's just shadowing. A quick visual of how from this beautiful piece of limestone, from a photo, so you can do that at home, you can take a photo of something, you can create a colour, and then I have created the colour, I've taken the RGB and I've popped it into my drawing here just so that I can give you a visual. But that is the beauty of being able to create all of your own beautiful bespoke colours. Given that we're all in lockdown, or a lot of us are still, this is something that you can do from home. So if you go to Google Play or to the App Store, you can download the Coloursmith app, and you can certainly get very creative and have a lot of fun. So I'm going to come back onto the screen, have a quick look at some questions, because I think I'm just about out of time. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so hi Cole, thank you very much for joining our session. He is saying, I'm not a fan of feature walls anymore, but I have a client that would like one. The main wall colour is Tranquil Retreat and the woodwork is Lexicon Half. What kind of colours come to your mind? I guess when you start talking about the colours that you're talking about a white that has a splash of black, so it tends to be a little bit on the cooler side when we talk about whites. And the colour that you're talking about there is a soft sort of grey. So when we're talking about a grey and a cool sort of clean bright white, if you like, you know, automatically I think of quite a lot of colours that are going to work with that, depending on where the feature wall is going to be and depending on which room we're talking about. If we're talking about a feature wall perhaps in a living room that's got a TV or something in front of it, you know, a colour that comes straight to mind would be something like Taubmans Mojo. That's a fantastic colour. It's a beautiful dark charcoal and that works very well. Other colours that come to mind are, you know, you can use beautiful soft teals. They work really, really well for interiors, especially with greys and whites. And the reason I sort of tend to mention teals, etc., they're very calming. They have that sort of effect. So tones like that work really, really well. So it looks like I have pretty much gone over time, as I always do. I'd really like to thank you all very much for joining our session tonight. I will be off camera in a moment, but I will still be behind the scenes answering all of your questions. So please feel free to upload anything that you may have, any queries, etc. And we'll be back again the same time next week. So I do hope that you can join us. Until then, have a great evening and stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.